Alrighty, so today we're going to be learning about half steps and whole steps. It's a pretty easy concept. It's just like essentially the distance between one key to the next. So a half step, also known as a semitone, is the distance from one key on the keyboard to the next adjacent key, like the very next one. So, for example, it would be key 1 and key 2. The distance from going to key 1 to 2 would be considered a half step. Um, it doesn't always have to be a white key to a black key. It's just like that in that specific example. But for example, over here, it could go from this white key to this white key, or it could go from this white key to this black key, or this white key to this black key. It really doesn't matter. All it matters is it's the very next key that is adjacent to the other one, and it's just that distance. So going from this key to the very next one, that would be a half step. So yeah, like I said, like for example, this one, key 1 and 2, they are both white keys, not going from a white to a black, but that doesn't really matter because it's still the same distance. But however, you can't go from a black key to another black key since there is always a white key in between, at least one. So that'll actually be considered a whole step, but we'll talk about that in a second. So a whole step or a whole tone, or simply tone, is the same distance as two half steps. So, for example, key 1 to key 3 would be considered a whole step. So you would go from this key, not to that one, but to the next one. So not to the very next one, but the one after that. And the distance between that would be considered a whole step. So key 1 to key 2 would be a half step, and then key 2 to key 3 would be the second half step, and that would be two half steps, and so going from key 1 to 3 would be a whole step. And now we're going to go into the study guides, and this kind of goes more in depth. So as we can see the whole piano. Like I said, you can go from like white key to white key, that would be a half step. This particular key to a black key, that would also be a half step. Or you can go from this black key to this black key, that would be a whole step. And then from this white key to this other white key, that'd be a whole step. So like I said, the half step is the distance between two consecutive keys on a piano keyboard. And then this also goes into a little bit about enharmonics, which we learned about in Jackson and his group's lesson. And so we're just going to skip down to half steps. And where is it at? Oh, not half steps. I'm so sorry. Whole steps. So yeah, just like before, a whole step is equivalent to two half steps. So on the piano, it's the distance between two keys and that have one key in between them. And then just show some examples on the staff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I'm going to do a demo on the piano on my phone in just a second. Alright, so I'm going to play this on the piano and also use my little cursor to show which keys I'm playing. So from E to F, that would be a half step. However, if we went from E to F sharp over here, that'd be a whole step. You also go from F sharp to G sharp, that would be a whole step. Or F sharp to G, that'd be a half step. And you can go in either direction, so you can also go from F to E, and that'd still be considered a half step. And then you can also go from F to E flat, and that would also be considered a whole step. So really, just like I was saying before, half step is just the distance between, or it's just the distance between one note to the very next one. And then a whole step would be the distance between one note to not the very next one, but the one just after that. So yeah, thank you for listening.
Now on to accidentals. An accidental is a sign used to raise or lower the pitch of a note. The first accidentals that we will discuss are the flat and sharp. The flat lowers a note by a half step, while the sharp raises a note by a half step. When typing, you can use a hashtag symbol to represent a sharp and a lowercase b to represent a flat. Let's examine the black key between C and D. This key could be called C sharp since it is a half step above C. It could also be called D flat since it's a half step below D. Now Another example would be E and F. E could also be called F, F flat, since it is a half a step below F. Likewise, F could be called E sharp. Whenever a certain pitch has multiple names, it is called an enharmonic spelling. While flats and sharps alter a note by a half step, the double flat and double sharp alter a note by a whole step. When typing, you can use an X to represent a double sharp and two lowercase b's to represent a double flat. For example, both D and E double flat have the same pitch, since you can reach D by going a whole step or two half steps down from E. D also sounds the same as C double sharp, since it is a whole step above C. Finally, a natural, which is represented right in the middle here, cancels out any accidental and returns a note to its original white key. So, how do we use accidentals? Here's an example of a melody that uses accidentals. The key signature tells us that we're in G major. The key signature tells us that we're in G major, so that means that all notes are natural notes except for the F. In this key, you have to play an F sharp whenever you see a note on the F line or space. See the flat and natural signs in the second bar? Those are the two accidentals in the melody. They change the notes you would normally play in this key signature from B natural and F sharp to B flat and F natural, respectively. Now, let's go into the example, and I'm going to move us over to my piano. Okay, so two disclaimers real quick. Sorry if this is shaky. I was not able to find a stand for my camera. On top of that, my piano is much out of tune, so don't mind that. It's going to be very much out of tune. Just ignore that part. But here we see that we have the G key. So if we go up half a step from G, we have the G sharp, which is right here, the black key, which would sound like. So from G, so this would be G natural, G sharp. And if we go down half a step, we would go to this black key, and that would be G flat. So G natural, G flat. And that's going to be all from me on accidentals, and now I believe we are going on to the Kahoot. So I hope you guys enjoy that.